Good morning. My name is Lizzie Donovan, and today I'll be walking you through my capstone presentation. My theme is theories of learning and their roles in teaching. I am competent at creating an effective reward system and individualized lessons to motivate and engage students in daily activities. I used these two questions to guide me as I created my presentation. How can I engage and motivate learners? And how can I use motivation strategies to increase positive behaviors and a student's participation in class activities? This led me to my 3 pieces of evidence from my time in the teaching college. My first piece of evidence is from SPED 303, Behavior Management, in the spring of 2016. During this practicum, I spent 2 days a week at Rousseau Elementary in a kindergarten classroom. And over the course of the semester, we developed a behavior management plan for one student to increase one specific behavior. I chose to increase the amount of time my student spent writing during his writing period. To do this, I used a partial interval recording technique where every minute on the minute, I made an X if he was writing at that minute for the 20 minutes of writing time. If he were to write 60% of the time or gain 12 X's, he got to put one body part onto the minion chart move. If he was writing 100% of the time, or 20 out of 20 X's, then he would put 2 minion parts on the chart move. I developed the chart move based on an interest inventory I did with the student, where I found he was highly motivated through minions, candy, and moving around. To do the reward system, I used the chart move where if he put on the arms and the legs, he got to do a lap around the school and move around. If he put on the clothes and the goggles, then he got to watch a clip of the Minion movie after writing. And when he put on the eyes and the mouth, he got to take a bag of Skittles home. This was an ongoing chart move and an ongoing reinforcer, but it did lack the instant gratification that a kindergarten student needs. They need that reinforcement right away to tell them they're doing the right thing. And yes, he got to put the minion parts on the chart move, and that was reinforcing for him, but he still needed that instant reward. It was hard for him to wait and think long term that he would have to wait until tomorrow to add more body parts. But the overall intervention was effective, and he was able to increase the amount of time he spent writing. I think it was effective based on the rewards that he was given and how highly motivated he was to gain those rewards. This led me to evidence number 2, where I spent time at the Kit and Dick Reading Center tutoring one individual student on his reading comprehension and spelling. During the tutoring times, we had 50 minutes to work with the student, and I used my last 10 minutes of flexible lesson time as a reward for the student. This was a reward if the student was actively engaged and participating in the rest of the 40 minutes of the lesson. For this specific reward, I used an interest inventory to see what motivated the student to do his work. This student was highly motivated through games. He loved to play games, whether you were moving, rolling the dice, or in this case, we played Spelling Battleship. I put all of his spelling words that he was working on that week on one side, and he would have the other side. He would call out letter and number correspondence, and I would tell him hit or miss. If it was a hit, he would get a letter to put in the box. If it was a miss, he would just put an X. After a few hits, he was able to guess which spelling word he had on his sheet in which order. Then he sank my ship. This was a highly motivating game for him and allowed him to do his work at the beginning of the lesson in order to get the reward of playing the game at the end in the final 10 minutes. This showed me that when students are highly motivated to do something, you see their best participation and active engagement in the rest of their activities. This leads me to my final artifact, which was from the spring of 2018, just recently. I've been student teaching in a preschool classroom at Rousseau Elementary. We have one student with autism who really struggles with motor imitation. He doesn't like to clap his hands or pat his legs or put his hands up in the air, none of it. So I went on to develop an intervention strategy with the student. I pulled him for 10 minutes a day and found 3 objects that were highly reinforcing for him to play with. These were dinosaur eggs, bubbles, and seashells. These 3 items he really loved. They were highly reinforcing. I thought that they would have him do the activity that I needed him to do. So I would show him pat legs. If he did not do it, I would have a staff pat his legs hand over hand with him, and then we would give him the reward and say yay with lots of verbal praise. We did this over and over again for days 1 through 5 to see if the student would catch on to the reward system. If I do this, then I get this. He really didn't, and he stayed kind of stable where he was not doing the motor imitation regularly, and he was needing a lot of physical prompting and assistance when he did participate. So I moved on to get something that was an even higher reinforcer for him. I went to goldfish. He loved goldfish, and I took a skill that he already knew. He knew how to give high fives. So I had him give me a high five, and then he got a goldfish. We did this 5 times in a row, so he understood the concept of the reward system. If I do this, then I get this. I then implemented the goldfish on day 6 for his motor imitation, his 3 tasks that he was trying to do. And he was fully capable of doing all 3 tasks with the goldfish as a reinforcer. On day 9, we saw a motor imitation explosion where he did all 3 tasks all 5 times from then on out. This continued through day 11, and I was really impressed with his progress. He was able to do all of the motor imitation all the time. So I stopped with the goldfish and went back to the physical reinforcers of the toys. I did this for days 12, 13, and 14, and he continued the motor imitation every time without fail. On day 14, I decided to stop the intervention because he showed me that he was able to complete all of my motor imitation tasks, as well as tasks in small group and large group and music time. He participated alongside his peers, and this was our final goal that we were trying to reach with him. I do have a small clip of what my student looked like in completing this motor imitation. In the clip, you see him pat his legs after I pat my legs, and then he gets his physical reinforcement of the dinosaur eggs. And this was for him to play with. So this brings me to my synthesis and reasoning. Why does this matter? Why would a teacher need to understand a reward system or these individualized lessons in order to teach their students? In my opinion, all teachers want their students to understand the learning objectives that we have set out for them. We want our students to be able to participate in daily activities and routines, but some students need more support with this. And if a student is refusing to participate at all, they're not meeting your learning objectives. So we need to find a way to make sure that our students are participating. This may involve an individual reward system or possibly a class-wide reward system if that fits. There are a lot of ways that you can do this, but through interest inventories and building relationships with students, you see what is highly motivating for them and what is a possible reinforcer to them. Our goal is to increase students' participation so they have the opportunity to learn, and this may include implementing a class-wide or individual intervention strategy. This brings me to my reflection. What did I learn through all of this? What did I learn through my time in the teaching college? I learned that not all students learn in the same way, and that FAIR is not every student getting the same thing, but instead every student getting exactly what they need to be successful. While I was implementing my evidence of learning, I learned that many students come up to you and say, I want to do that too, or why can't I get that? Why don't I get goldfish? And it's important for you as a teacher to understand and the student understand this is what one student needs in order to be successful. I also learned that students learn best when they have the motivation to do so, and this may at first require a reward system or individualized plans. What I still need to learn is how each student in my class will be motivated, why each student is participating in a class activity or why they're not. What adaptations can I make to help a student be more successful in their daily routines? and how to work with co-teachers who may or may not agree with the reward system, because not all teachers do, and this is a barrier I'll run into in my time in teaching. When I'm identifying what I still need to learn in the future, I'm going to collaborate with teachers in my classroom to see where they are having the hardest time, and understand that if a student is not engaging in daily activities, we need to find a way to motivate them in order to complete these daily tasks. And finally, asking for feedback from a co-teacher to understand how each motivation strategy is working. In the case of my last piece of evidence, the motivation strategy was not producing the results that we wanted to see, so we changed it. We changed to goldfish, and then after a few days of gaining those results, we were able to change back and eventually discontinue the intervention. This is important to know as I move into my next steps in my career.